Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
All right, guys. Today is date November the 2nd, 2022, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan. How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before we get started, guys, to let you know that even though we are a news podcast, we do try to watch our language. However, sometimes words do fly at the same time, guys. There may be things that might be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers. So viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. There's really no other way we can start this except to unfortunately address the elephant in the room. Another shooting has occurred. Well, actually, two shootings have occurred. One involving another high-profile superstar, and another one, of course, hails from Chicago. We will actually start with the first one. For all those that don't know, Takeoff from the Migos was shot and killed just literally within 48 hours. Of course, if you've seen the many social medias out there, people are posting pictures of his body, things of that nature, and reports still coming in that apparently shots were fired over a dice game in Houston. And of course, he was pronounced DOA on the scene. As you can see there, this just adds to the list of other hip hop stars that have been killed. P&B Rock, Young Dolph, Pop Smoke, Nipsey Hussle, and forgive me if I ever pronounced this name wrong, Triple X Tenacion. There is really no other way to handle this, guys, because every time, and I say this every time, when a black person is killed, and of course the person that is responsible for Takeoff's death is still at large. But the thing is, it would be hard to sit there and say, and I've said this on my own social media posts, that I'm tired of seeing other people who aren't black say that, you guys need to do better, that this is unacceptable. You want justice, but yet you people keep killing your own. Here's the thing I've always sat there and said. I hate the fact that even though in the bluntest of truths that we as a culture need to do better, I am always annoyed that those who aren't black are telling us. Now, again, I'm not dismissing the fact that there is a culture, there is a stigma out there. And I've said it best, I will never understand brothers who will represent something that literally and figuratively does nothing for them. If you represent your street, your hood, however you call it, I've never understood representing something that literally does nothing for you. The hood has claimed more lives than almost anything out there combined. Now, I'm not speaking from the fact of, well, you're not talking about the police. I am talking about the police. I am talking about law enforcement. But I am talking about somewhere along the lines between the late 80s and early 90s that the culture that I'm talking about not only became glorified, it became profitable. And you can blame gangster rap. You can blame this culture of having to be hard, having this many women, having cars, drinking Molly, popping lean, however you choose to make it. That culture, that stigma has always been a part of everything. And that's why I keep saying, and I said this in my social media post on my Facebook, I said, until we have that discussion, that we as a people, as black people, have to address the culture. We as black people have to change it. We have to come together. We have to unify. I know it is a strange concept. It's even been joked about. How many comedians do you know that have joked about, say, you know what, that's about as strange as black unity? Even though it's funny at the time, it sparked something that, yes, we as a people are broken. We as a people need to come here and unify. We as a people need to look at these cultures, look at this culture that's been created, and we need to change it. But I would be remiss to sit there and say that this culture didn't actually get nurturing along the way. I didn't, I would be remiss to sit there and say, what about the economical downturns? What about the single parent homes? What about the educational, financial opportunities? What about the fact that so many things in difference were not given to these places, but were given to other places to thrive, while people in those very impoverished, lack of opportunity areas didn't flourish? But again, I would be remiss not to say that, but I would also be remiss to sit there and say that we as a people can do better. Not as can do better as far as another race telling us, but the fact that we have to sit there. Like I said, I've never understood the whole idea of being down for something that gives you nothing back. I will never understand. And again, I could also sit there and say, because Deion Sanders had a wonderful point. He says, once you move up in the world, you can't go back. And that's why I don't usually knock people. I don't ever knock people when they make it. The first thing they do is move away from their surroundings. Oh man, you ain't really from here. You in Hollywood. Yes, because isn't that the same thing that we say in neighborhoods where literally nothing happens but crime? The same thing that we sit there and say is that once I get some money, I'm moving to somewhere else that isn't this. We clown those who move away because they have the ability to. And I've never understood that. I've never understood the whole thing of, why should I stay just because what? To validate someone else's opinion of me? I've never understood that. But I'll also consider and say is that for a lot of people, buying back our neighborhoods, buying back our blocks, all great things if done as together as a unit. Not just, yes, you can always start with one person. Yeah, it always can start with one person going and buying a block. It can also start with one person growing a garden. It can start with one person with teaching financial education to the younger generation. It could also go as saying to teach the things to children of single parent homes, to actually provide services that should have been provided to them a long that time ago. All those things can be done, and with unity can have those programs flourish. But honestly, it's not an impossible thing to unify, because that's the first step we need to do as Black people, is to unify. We need to be behind the same message. We need to be behind the same goal, the same mission. You want to know why? Because honestly, I'm tired of seeing stories like this one.
They're all in various conditions between critical and non-life threatening. We also have a person struck by a vehicle at the scene as well. The age ranges for the victims are a 3-year-old, an 11-year-old, and we have reports of a 13-year-old, and everyone else is going to be adults. We have some information regarding why the crowd was gathered. It's probably more than one reason. There was a vigil that we understand that was the balloon release was happening, but there may have also been others gathered for other various reasons. It's a very, common corner to be where people congregate and have, different meetings and gatherings. So it could be various reasons, not just one.
This is a tragic situation. To find 14 individuals shot anywhere in this city is a tragic situation. It's an unfortunate situation to find a 3-year-old and some young people being shot in this particular case. It's heartbreaking to people go out to, memorialize someone and ultimately become victims. So that is a challenge.
And that was Chicago. Chicago, where Fox News loves to tout, oh, this is the reason why gun laws don't work here. Look at Chicago. Chicago is their Black people Benghazi. And aside from Fox News, as far as a people, That was Halloween. Just 2 days ago. 2 days ago on Halloween, 13 people were shot. Shot by from all reports, from a car that rolled up on the crowd and opened fire. It gets to a point where something has to stop. And like I said before I move on, we as a people, I mean, if you are not black, first and foremost, let me say this, and I will stand on this no matter what. Number one, if you are not black, you do not have the right to tell black people that they need to do better. You do not. If you are not black, you do not have the right to tell black people that they need to do better. As if any other race out there doesn't have a history of violence. I'll wait. The point I'm making is just that we as black people know that there, like I said before, there is a culture out there that has taken many lives. The only way to defeat that culture is for us to finally come together under one banner, under one mission, under one statement, and begin to change. Is it impossible? No. Is it difficult? Yes. Can it be done? Absolutely. But it cannot be with just one person. We all have to be of the same accord. Otherwise, events like that and superstars like that, I don't care. Like I said before, it amazes me that, not to go completely off track, because there's a lot of people out there who sit there and say, well, they don't roll with us. They don't have any security around them. I said, doesn't that kind of spark a problem right there? Now I get with celebrities, the more famous you are, the more money that you have, the bigger the target you are. I can understand that need for security. But for the simple fact of the matter is, there is a reason why most people don't talk about street fables. As I've seen, which a lot of people you would think from the mobster movies, from the Martin Scorsese's of our time, the Francis Ford Coppolas of our time, that no mobster ever had a happy ending. There are no 401ks in being gangster. There is no retirement plans in being a gang member. There isn't. Either you get shot, or either you shoot or you get shot. But there is no happy ending. And yet, that culture still gets glorified, along with many other things. But as I said before, when black people, when we finally unite and come together for a purpose, this can all change. I truly, truly believe that. But switching gears for a second, guys, again, I know the next piece of news is going to sound redundant because you've heard it before. The Ways and Means Committee of Congress have decided to subpoena Trump's tax records, and yet they are blocked again, of course, by a Supreme Court justice.
Breaking news. The Supreme Court just temporarily blocked former President Donald Trump's tax records from being given to a House committee. Joining us now, NBC News Supreme Court reporter Lawrence Hurley. Lawrence, good morning. What does this mean?
Well, what this means is that the lower court ruling that allowed for these tax returns to be handed over to the House Ways and Means Committee is now temporarily put on hold, and that was going to go into effect on Thursday, which would have meant that, imminently those materials would be handed over to the committee, possibly, before the election or before the potential changeover of Congress. But now that's all put on hold. The Chief Justice is saying he wants to hear from the committee in response to Trump's emergency request, and that's not going to be due until November the 10th. So everything is now frozen until the committee makes its response, and then the Supreme Court probably as a whole will decide whether to grant.
Okay, so long story short, folks, history repeats itself. Now keep in mind, for all those that don't know, the Ways and Means Committee within the government has the ability, one of their key abilities with the Ways and Means, they can actually request the financial information of anyone, including current or former presidents. Now that we know what the abilities are, and of course, they are still investigating Donald Trump, whose tax records at this point are only in the hands of the U.S. Attorney, the Attorney General for New York, Miss Letitia James, is the only one. Her office currently is the only office that has access to Donald Trump's tax returns. Hence why she's about to go in the next step of her investigation. That being said, however, the Ways and Means Committee should not be blocked from that since they, again, are investigating Donald Trump. They've been doing so since he was president. But it's amazing that the Supreme Court decides that, oh, well, you guys may not actually have a legitimate reason for investigating Trump. New York would argue differently. Now, keep in mind, Trump is literally and figuratively fighting 6 different lawsuits right now. And with his tax returns actually being in place, you would think for 1 second, it's like, okay, they can look. But again, the Supreme Court is still being, for all intents and purposes, the Supreme Court is still being a butt. The Supreme Court is still doing Trump's bidding. Even more so, in a story that we'll get to a little bit later on, there's another reason why the Supreme Court, a dangerous conservative Supreme Court right now, is a little bit hardy, especially the ways of affirmative action, but we'll get to that momentarily. But I did want to talk about gas prices. I know for a lot of people, gas prices right now is not the best thing smoking. I know it. You know it. It's a pain in the ass. That being said, it is amazing that Biden at this moment is considering windfall profits taxes on oil companies. I know. I feel like we talked about this 4 months ago, that Biden is considering windfall profits taxes on oil companies because, again, if you are an oil company right now, it is Christmas. Most companies like Exxon, like BP, Shell, and others have made record profits in a pandemic, almost borderline recession economy. Oil companies are making buku bucks, which again, Biden is now considering the fallout from the Saudi family, which, by the way, Saudis and OPEC have decided to cut back their production, which means that they are cutting back on their production of barrels of crude oil, which eventually does mean gas prices will increase. Now, with that being said, and I think this particular blowback, that Biden is considering a windfall profits tax, in which economists are coming out and saying, and this is what economist Larry Summers had said, I'm not sure I understand the argument for a windfall profits tax on energy companies. If you reduce profitability, you will discourage investment, which is the opposite of our objective. No, I completely disagree. Because again, we are in a society that runs off fossil fuels. We're a society that our cars run off of it, our electrical plants run off of it, our airlines run off of it, our trains run off of it. Pretty much almost everything still runs on fossil fuels. That being said, profit doesn't go away. Profit's not going to reduce. Are you kidding me? That's what you're trying to say. Well, you will discourage investment. People with money will still invest. The funny part as he says this, keep in mind, when the Horizon event spillage happened in the Gulf Coast, that was all BP's issue. Keep in mind one thing. BP still had billions of dollars being pumped into them as they were running their clean ads. We're going to clean up the Gulf of Mexico. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. They had their ads running to where they were still cleaning up the waters. People and companies were still investing in BP. Exxon had their Valdez leak, in the ocean as they were cleaning that up. Guess what? Profits didn't take a dip. Even when they put out a multi-billion-dollar settlement, profits didn't take a dip. So I have to disagree with Mr. Economist that yes, even if President Biden did institute a windfall profit tax on these companies would still make a profit. But again, why not? Because it amazes me so that a lot of economists really believe that, hey, and this is the thing about the free market, which amazes me so. They believe that if we don't tax the free market will take care of itself. Back to old Reaganomics, because Reaganomics believes, hey, if you keep giving to the top, it will eventually spill down to others. That's bullshit. It doesn't work. Reagan somehow got that passed when he was president, and it's still being touted to this day. So what am I saying, guys? I am saying that windfall profit taxes should have been instituted a long time ago. Because again, why not? I mean, if you think about it, say for instance, the Powerball. What? Powerball is over $1 billion. The last time the Powerball was over $1 billion, the person who actually won after taxes and whatnot got $433 million. So the person that wins the Powerball tonight, at the time of this, the person who wins the Powerball tonight, of course, gets over $1 billion. But you got to pay taxes. In which, correct me if I'm wrong, Congress made Uncle Sam, who doesn't show up for the losses but shows up for the wins, decides that they may take $700 to $800 million of that lottery winning to leave you with what, as a person who won and spent money on a lottery ticket, maybe 400 million and some change, if that. Now a lot of people are sitting there saying, well, 400 million is still a lot. Yes. But nobody's asking the question why Congress can come in and take 700, 800 million just because you won the lottery. Now, don't get me wrong. No one questions that. But at the same time, nobody questions how billion-dollar oil companies can simply still get to do whatever they want. And yet when we tax them, they have a problem. So you'll tax somebody who wins $1 billion in the lottery with life-changing money, but yet we can't tax billion-dollar oil companies because they'll stop producing oil less? See how stupid that sounds when you say it out loud? So anyway, just saying. But we can also address some news because, again, social media has lost the battle. Why has social media lost the battle? Because Elon Musk has finally taken over Twitter, and just like the arch villain in almost every movie, he has immediately made decisions.
The world's richest man is now officially Chief Twit. By Tuesday, his company, Twitter, will be private again. But what happens then? Well, he has said he wants to make Twitter a super app like China's WeChat, used for payments, entertainment, and communication.
My idea would be like, how about if we just copy WeChat? Hey. Hey.
But he's told investors he'll cut staff, not add to it, and the CEO, CFO, and general counsel were all out in his first hours as owner. The contradictions continue in a note to advertisers that promises a, quote, digital town square that is also a, quote, respected advertising platform, a place where you can choose your desired experience, but that also doesn't splinter into echo chambers. Musk has promised to allow President Trump and other banned users back on the platform. Trump this week saying he'd remain on Truth Social, the comparatively tiny platform he launched after Twitter and Facebook kicked him off. And Musk has said he plans to do away with most content moderation, although laws around the world require any company to filter what we post.
You take all of those ingredients and you bring, toxic or problematic users back to the platform while decimating the internal mechanisms at the company that might be able to deal with these situations. I think it's going to be a rocky road for a while.
Elon Musk brought our wallets online, has helped to revolutionize the way we drive, and owns the Postal Service of space. But Twitter could be his most difficult project yet.
Now, in his very first hours, obviously, we saw this sort of imprint inside the company, but on the platform itself, researchers are pointing out that all sorts of trolls and online hate groups are already testing the fences, getting organized in anonymous forums, and then trying to figure out what it is they can say under Musk. Meanwhile, even as Elon Musk tweets, the bird is freed, top EU regulators at a time when laws around tech and free speech are tightening around the world have said that he's got to play by their rules. You guys?
Yeah. And if you've been on Twitter lately, first off, Elon Musk is not the genius everybody thinks he is. First off, he was born from money because his parents owned a mine. He didn't really invest in the PayPal online. He just simply threw money at it. He bought into Tesla, eventually took that over, kicked out the original owners, and he did the same thing on Twitter. Within purchasing Twitter, this man has already kicked out 2 VPs and made himself Chief Twit, which is not how can I put this ever so nicely? It's not a very satisfying figurehead name that you want to give yourself, Chief Twit, but hey, I guess that's that. But the simple fact of the matter, guys, is just that number one, yes, offensive language has jumped nearly 200% on Twitter. Use the N-word on Twitter has jumped nearly 500%. Offensive and graphic material is rampant on Twitter. And I have yet to confirm whether or not Donald Trump does have his Twitter account back. And if he does, God help us all. The thing about Twitter is just that with social media, that yes, you do have free speech, but it did need to be curtailed. I mean, you couldn't say just almost anything out there without consequence. Don't believe me? Ask Kanye. The thing I'm pointing out this is that, Musk truly believed in free speech. But here's the thing about when you give free speech to those, when you have an idea such as that, no matter how noble it is, there is always the area for corruption. And that's exactly what it is. Not to mention that he took Twitter private again, which I guess we shouldn't be surprised by that. But the other thing that surprises people, but it still amazes me so, where I sat there and said he bought Twitter for $44 billion. He had to raise $44 billion to buy Twitter, and is now taking it private again, which means he owns it. Did you not think he was going to try to monetize from it? Because if you didn't think he was, I got some news for you. He's trying to. That he actually put a plan forward that sat there and said, if you have a verified account, which is a blue check on Twitter, you're getting charged $8 a month for it. That's right. For a free social media app that you have a blue check mark to your name, that you will pay $8 a month to verify who you are. And guys, I keep saying this all the time. Did you not think that when Elon Musk purchased Twitter, that he wasn't going to try to figure out how to monetize it? Rich people don't buy things out of altruism. They buy things because, number one, they're popular. Number two, how can they make more? How can they make their money back and then some with said option? Elon Musk saw this for Twitter and said, I can make money off this, and ran with it. Why are we surprised? But yes, people are coming forward and sitting there saying, $8 a month just to verify my account, I'll pass. At the same time, with that and other groups, vulgar language, it is truly the wild, wild west on Twitter. Exactly the type of chaos that Elon Musk loves, because with that chaos, he truly believes he can be profitable. Well, good luck. Aside from that, I'll be looking for the next social media app to go to, because eventually, as much as I love Black Twitter, eventually another social app's going to come along and it'll be the newest fad. Considering the fact that Zuckerberg has both Facebook and Instagram, Elon Musk has Twitter, Snapchat somehow is still unowned, and TikTok is owned by the Chinese. Yep, we're waiting on the next big thing. But speaking of the next big thing, as we switch gears to the campaign trail, and hopefully you guys, if you have early voting in your state, have went ahead and did it. I know in Tennessee, early voting is still going on to the end of this week, which will be the 4th. I think the 4th is the last day that you can early vote before we get to our official midterm elections. So I will say this: if you whichever way you're voting, whether it's Democrat, Republican, or Independent, please vote. No action. We've seen what happens when there is no action. Learn the candidates, learn what they're about. If they fall within your spectrum, vote for them. Because when you don't vote, it's almost as if you're giving a vote to the other person. And lack of voting is what got us Trump in the first place. I'm not saying vote Democrat. I'm sure as hell saying don't vote Republican for many reasons, but still vote. Please, oh please, vote. But as I got that little thing out the way, we do want to talk about Herschel Walker, because why? Somehow this dude is still possible to win the Senate seat in Georgia against Raphael Warnock. However, he is still dodging his allegations of paying women off for abortions, and one of them just recently this week has stepped forward.
Republican Senate candidate Herschel Walker. Juju Chang interviewed a second woman who accused him of pressuring her to have an abortion. The accuser, who's now choosing to show her face and respond to Walker's denial of her claims. Good morning, Juju.
Good morning, George. Well, as you know, 2 women have now come forward to say that Herschel Walker, the staunchly anti-abortion Senate candidate, pressured them into having abortions. When he called the allegations lies, the second accuser says that's when she decided to sit down with us and share her story.
I've kept this to myself for 30 years. I protected him. And I wanted this to remain private for obvious reasons.
Last week, a second woman, her face and name withheld, accused Republican Senate candidate and former football star Herschel Walker of pressuring her to get an abortion. Walker denouncing her claims as foolishness and lies.
I said that's a lie, and I've moved on, and they want me to play these guessing games and all this, but I'm not. I'm not into that. I'm into winning this great seat, fight for the great people of Georgia, because that's what this is about.
Now Jane Doe responds. At her request, we agreed not to use her name, calling her Jane Doe instead. But she says she now wants to show her face.
And so what makes you want to speak about it now?
When I saw the first woman come forward a few weeks ago, he immediately called her a liar and said, I never signed anything with the letter H. And I knew I had many cards from him where he signed the letter H. And so I believed then that she was telling the truth.
Jane Doe showed us some cards and letters she says she received from Herschel Walker, some signed with a flourish, that H. She says she took this photo of Walker asleep. They had met, she says, in the late 80s when he was married to his first wife, and she says had an affair that lasted 6 years.
We saw each other several times a week, usually in the mornings. And we saw each other before games, home games, away games, that kind of thing.
Jane Doe shared hotel receipts from that era and a voicemail she says is from Walker after he went to the Olympic Games in 1992.
He often told me in writing and every time we had a conversation how much he loved me and how much I meant to him and that I was who he wanted to be with.
Jane Doe says despite being on birth control, she got pregnant in 1993. Walker, she says, pressured her to get the abortion.
He was very clear that he did not want me to have the child. And he said that because of his wife's family and powerful people around him, that I would not be safe and that the child would not be safe.
That's very menacing.
It is very menacing. It is very menacing. And I felt threatened, and I thought I had no choice.
She says at first she went to an abortion clinic but couldn't go through with it. But Walker, she says, talked her into going back with him.
He came to my house and picked me up and drove me to the clinic. And I went in alone, and he waited in the car while I went in and had the procedure.
She says Walker gave her cash to pay for the abortion and has no records or receipts of the payment or the procedure. She says after the abortion, everything changed.
Everything shifted. He distanced himself from me almost immediately.
Jane Doe says she left her life in Dallas within days and never moved back. Over the years, she says Walker reached out occasionally.
I told my parents that I had miscarriage because I couldn't tell them the truth. Yeah. And I told a few friends the same thing because I couldn't tell them the truth.
Why in your mind did you feel like you couldn't tell them the truth?
It just was very shameful. And I felt like I had been manipulated.
We spoke to 2 women identified to us as friends of the accuser by her lawyer, Gloria Allred. They each told us Jane Doe confided in them in the 90s that she got pregnant during a years-long affair with Walker. One woman saying she took this photo of Jane Doe and Walker meeting at a conference in 2019, years after their alleged affair. Her friend describing how she says they greeted each other.
He embraced her, and that embrace it was very emotional. It lasted longer than a normal embrace. It was like they'd known each other for years and years and years, which I'd known they had.
But Jane Doe says her feelings changed after she saw Walker deny that he'd ever paid for an abortion. That, says her lawyer, is when she decided to come forward.
Herschel Walker looked the American people in the eye after she spoke out last week and said it was a lie. Both women were liars. And she's now looking the American people in the eye, and she's telling her truth.
And what makes you think he's not fit to be a U.S. Senator?
I think honesty matters.
Now, it's worth noting that Jane Doe is a registered independent, and she told us that she voted for Donald Trump twice. She says she's not motivated by politics, but what she says matters more, the truth. Now, Herschel Walker's campaign told ABC News to refer to that previous statement in which he said, "It's a lie. I've moved on. They want me to play these guessing games, but I'm not into that. I'm into winning." Guys?
Well, the plot thickens. As you know, listening to her story is definitely heartbreaking and at the same time tragic. At the same time, Republicans will not care. You know why? Because this is why I sit there and say the whole thing about Republicans being pro-birth and all that crap is a load of shit. They want the Senate. They want the ability to dismay, disrupt, or flat out impose their will over Democrats. And if Herschel Walker is the path to disrupting the Senate, they will take it no matter how bad that train is on fire, no matter how bad it's coming off the rails. They're going to ride this man if he does get them the Senate seat over Warnock. That alone tells you that Republicans do not care. Because again, Herschel Walker has been caught many times. Says he graduated top of his class at the University of Georgia. That was a lie. Said he's a law enforcement officer. That was a lie. Said he started his own successful business. The business cannot be found. I mean, we can keep going, folks. Said he never paid for abortions. That's 3 women that have come up and said, you have paid for abortions. Even one that sat there and said, oh, we had an intimate relationship. Well, I never paid for an abortion because, you know, the Republican Party is the party of family values. Surely they don't have a history of secret love children, extramarital affairs. Oh, my personal favorite, extramarital affair with an LGBTQ person while opposing LGBTQ plus rights. Surely there's not a history of that with the Republican Party. They're good Christian folk. Right. The point I'm making of all this is no matter how much this is being thrown out, somehow Walker still has a shot at getting a Senate seat. And that, my friends, is honestly, and forgive my language, a very, very scary fucking thought. Because this man has, like most Republicans, keep in mind what I said, most Republicans haven't put forward most Republicans have not put forward any plans, no policies. They just said buzzwords. We want to finish building the wall that President Trump started. We want to get our economy back on track. We want to bring back American jobs. You know, the usual Republican talking points, but no plan. And yes, I am going to stress on the Republicans, but I'm not going easy on Democrats either, because Republicans have no plan. That's why Herschel Walker hasn't said anything. Well, said anything intelligent. I mean, even poor Killer Mike, when he had him on a show, Killer Mike kind of babied him a little bit because it just showed you that Herschel Walker has nothing to bring to this table except a black face that Republicans can get behind because for some odd reason, they believe he's the right choice, which goes to confirm there are a lot of idiots that vote Republican just because they vote Republican. Aside from that, that's pretty much it. But again, early voting is still going on. Please check your state for its rules and regulations, because if you guys haven't noticed, as I've been saying last year, Republicans have been pushing forward on different voting rules and regulations, trying to curb mail-in voting, trying to curb ballot voting, about dropping off your ballots and things of that nature. they have moved the goalpost because they now realize how effective it was the last go around. So again, know the laws in your state, know the laws in your county, know where you can go early vote if it's possible. And if you can, if you absolutely must vote on election day, please do so. But again, know the candidates, vote with whoever goes with your interests. But a lack of voting is no activity at all. But again, I don't know how people can vote for Herschel Walker, but we shall see how that turns out. Now, I did want to talk about, guys, the Supreme Court, because again, the Supreme Court is about to make a ruling on affirmative action. I never thought in my 39 years on this earth I would say that sentence. I'll sit there and said the Supreme Court. I never thought I'd say the Supreme Court is about to overturn Roe versus Wade either. Affirmative action is a case which again enforces diversity in many areas, employment, school, things of that nature. Why? Because again, if you weren't white, you were not given the same chance at employment, at schools, at everything. So affirmative action had to be put in place to level the playing field. However, now, because of a case that's being heard by the Supreme Court, there is a chance, and I hate to say it, a chance that affirmative action can be struck down. What interesting times we live in.
At the Supreme Court, a cultural crossroads.
We know that racism exists.
Today, race as a factor in college admissions is on the line.
I think it definitely needs to come to an end.
Decades of legal precedent for affirmative action in higher education could fall, potentially reducing the number of Black and Latino students at elite schools. Over a pair of cases challenging race-conscious admissions policies at Harvard and the University of North Carolina. Today, conservative Justice Clarence Thomas voiced his skepticism.
I've heard the word diversity quite a few times, and I don't have a clue what it means.
The three liberal justices defended affirmative action for making institutions look more like America during 5 hours of arguments.
Race alone doesn't account for why someone's admitted or not.
Cecilia Polanco graduated from UNC in 2016 and says race remains an important consideration to level the playing field.
I think we need affirmative action because it will help make spaces more diverse. It will make, and that's better for everyone.
The conservative group behind these cases argues that using race in admissions discriminates against other students, namely Asian Americans, and that violates federal law and the Constitution's Equal Protection Clause.
This is a civil rights issue of Asians, and this is discrimination against Asians.
Around the country, 9 states have already ended affirmative action for school admissions. The court has a conservative supermajority with a 6-3 advantage and has shown a willingness to upend precedent, making the fate of affirmative action for higher education seem all the more fragile.
You know what's scary about this, guys, and I say this very succinctly, that the case is being brought up, well, some of the cases, because again, if you guys remember a while back, Asian Americans were bringing up cases saying that, you know, they were being discriminated against for not being allowed into colleges. What amazes me so about all this is just that how in the world could they, above all else, be saying discrimination when, again, our affirmative action has been put in place to exactly help them get in? Now, as the journalist said, if you do remove affirmative action, which means that companies will no longer have to worry about diversity, could you imagine how the landscape of America would look? I mean, seriously, could you imagine? I always say it like this. If affirmative action does go through and this does affect higher education, I will say this and this alone. What needs to happen, guys, is that the simple fact of the matter is just that any of those sports that have diverse students leave. Let's see what happens when college sports gets affected by the loss of affirmative action. I guarantee things will change overnight. Aside from that, guys, I did want to cover this next story because, again, anti-Semitism on the rise. And, of course, it's not because of Kanye. It's kind of been a long time coming.
For many Jewish Americans, the hate message scrolling across the Florida-Georgia football game and a building in Jacksonville were flashing warning signs. Anti-Semitism is spreading. The Kanye West tweets, the banners hanging over freeways in Florida and California. In a rare joint statement, the universities of Florida and Georgia denounced the messages, saying, "We are proud to be home to strong and thriving Jewish communities, and we stand together against hate." The New England Patriots owner even ran a PSA during Sunday's games, urging all Americans to stand up to Jewish hate, as anti-Semitic content has surged on Twitter after Elon Musk, who emphasized free speech, took full control. Use of the N-word also jumped 500%.
I think that the narrative that that hate speech is free speech, it's sort of winning out right now on these platforms.
The Anti-Defamation League reports 1,431 hate incidents so far this year, more than 2,700 last year. By comparison, 10 years ago, there were 927. Senior Rabbi Sue Shankman says members of her congregation in Washington are worried.
I've had people talk about the potential of moving elsewhere where there might not be anti-Semitism outside of this country. Would they go to Canada?
Fellow Americans who tonight are hoping that their country, their neighbors, will stand by them.
I support and will protect your child, and I hope that you would do the same for mine.
The anti-Semitic messages appear to be protected by the First Amendment, the concern that the messages could turn viral and physical.
And they're not wrong. They're not. Now, again, this is not just because of what Kanye said. And again, I keep pointing this out because the guys because, history is always moving around. Remember Nazis? Remember the Nazi swastikas? Remember the symbols? Remember the outfits that are still showing because there are still some idiots out there who still think it's pretty cool to relive probably some of the darker spots in not America's history, the darker spots in world history. Now, with anti-Semitism on the rise, of course, Kanye and what he says, everybody wants to say it's free speech. I have said this once. I will say this again. You have the right to say whatever it is you want to say. Nobody comes after you for that. However, there is a counterpoint to there's a counterpart to that. The counterpart to it is you can say whatever it is that you want to say. You are not absolved from the consequences that follow. And a lot of people get that confused. For example, let's use Kanye. Kanye sat there and said that Jews are not the true Jewish people, that the true Jews are black people. He ain't the first one to say it. I guarantee he won't be the last idiot to say it. But what happened? Lost business deals, lost money, lost his billionaire status. What are most of his fans saying? Well, he can't speak his mind. He did speak his mind. He's not in jail. He's not on trial. He isn't brought up the street and shot like a dog. So yes, his right to free speech was protected, but he is not absolved from the consequences of what he said. In the same sense, where you have a lot of people out there, Nick Cannon, another one, where he sat there and said the same thing. Black people are true Jewish people. What happened to him? Once they took away the things that they associate with him, all of a sudden, I want to apologize for what I said. Because when the money gets low, the hungriness shows. Shout out to Corey Holcomb for that. But the point I'm making out of this is, with free speech, free speech has to be held to a higher regard. Yes, will there be things that might be said that are radical, that may be eye-opening, that may be blunt and critical and things of that nature? Yes, we've had many of those times in our history where literally and figuratively we have seen people say some things that were shocking but true, said some things that are controversial but started a conversation. We have seen many examples of that. That being said, however, it is amazing to me that people think that they can say and do whatever they want without consequence because they saw Trump do it. Because that's the catalyst. If you really want to be honest, the catalyst is always Trump. Trump said whatever he wanted to. Trump even sat there and said, I could shoot a man in Times Square and no one would touch me. Remember that? I could shoot a man in Times Square and no one would touch me. As as shocking as his comment is, look how many people latched on to it. Latched on to this whole thing of, well, I can do it because the former president do it. No, the failure in chief is a reason why he's no longer a president, no longer executive chief anymore. He is not absolved of his actions. It just may take longer to get him. But as free speech goes, we have to be aware. Must we be bold? Absolutely. But must we be aware that consequences come after what you say? Also, absolutely. We should not be ignorant of that. And at the same time, we should be culturally sensitive. But, you guys didn't want CRT being taught in schools. We could have probably avoided this bullet. Just saying. But the last one I get to, guys, before we get to our feel-good segment, is one near and dear to my heart, one I have fought for years, and one I am glad as shit that it's coming back around. Now that we're in November, less than another month of that, we'll be looking at the end of 2022. Yes, I am talking about daylight savings time is finally going to end as of this Saturday night, early Sunday morning. I cannot tell you how much I am looking forward to it. As a morning person, I cannot stand daylight savings time. I think that we haven't had a need for it since World War II. Why in the blue hell do every spring do we have to set our clocks effing forward for no apparent reason because nobody wants to stop it? Now, aside from my little mini rants, the Sunshine Protection Act was an act that did get passed in the House. Did get passed in the Senate, stalled in the House. Now, the Sunshine Protection Act was to make daylight savings time permanent. And I want to go after everybody in the Senate who voted for this and immediately make sure they never get to vote on another bill again. Now, because again, sleep experts have all said it. Changing our sleeping habits can be destructive, can be counterproductive, causes our circadian rhythms to be disrupted, and again, leads to just irritable people. But then again, I'm not a morning person anyways, but still, to lose an hour of sleep is precious. At the same time, this doesn't apply for everybody. I think Hawaii and most of Arizona. There we go. I had to go over and look real quick. Hawaii and most of Arizona are the only ones that have standard time all year round, which makes me think I probably need to move to Hawaii, or most of Arizona, wherever it stands. I've just never understood the whole point. Why do we spring forward just to fall back? It literally and figuratively serves no purpose. If it was up to me, standard time. Let's just forget. Let's honestly, guys, and this is just me, let's honestly forget daylight saving time as a whole. That's just me. Let's forget it. Let's put it to the wayside. Let's never talk about it again. Let's treat this like a dark part in history. You know what I want them to do with daylight savings time? I want people to treat daylight savings time the same way white people treat CRT. Let's never bring it up ever again. That's what I want. But we're going to keep fighting that good fight. But anyway, moving on, guys, to our feel good segment, because usually how the fact we got here, we do cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom, sometimes make you lose your faith in humanity. But hey, it is Wednesday, hump day. We're looking forward to our Friday, which is Thursday, and we will leave you guys out some good vibrations. And I came across something on this story that I did not know about a historic all-black women's golf club. And I thought this was pretty cool, and I want to share it with you.
Great shot, Carol. It's a community formed out on the fairways.
It's another opportunity to strengthen sisterhood.
The Wake Robin Golf Club is the oldest in the nation for Black women. Formed in Washington, D.C. in 1937, when courses were still racially segregated.
The club was needed because there wasn't a place for Black women to play golf.
It's 2022. Why do you think it's important to have an all-Black women golf club?
Because we're still missing.
Paulette Savoy has been a member since 1985.
It's good to be able to sit down with people that are in the struggle with you and known what you've gone through.
Young women that you connect with through this club, what are you hoping they take away?
I just hope they take away confidence when they're in business and business is being conducted on the golf course. They can get right in there, and hold their own.
The club provides stipends for players in need and gives out scholarships to students like Kendall Jackson, a junior member who hopes to turn pro.
I'm so grateful for their company, being able to learn from them, talk with them, share their experiences about what it's like being a Black woman in golf.
stronger on and off the green.
Yes, good job.
For generations to come.
We hope that our presence will inspire that young Black girl that, hey, you can be out here too, you can do this.
Yamiche Sendor, NBC News, Mitchellville, Maryland.
I just thought that was pretty cool because, like I said, this is the reason also I'm a fan of history. I'm a fan of history just because a lot of this stuff out there, a lot of people don't know about. Imagine the fact that you knew there was an all-Black women's golf club. And like I said, the next Black golfer, whoever he or she may be, may you be the next Tiger Woods, Serena Williams of golf, please disrupt it. Disrupt and actually make your own path. But I love the fact of seeing things like that, and I will encourage it and share it every chance I get. That being said, guys, that's going to do it for this podcast. I do thank you all for watching, for liking, for letting people know this is live. I certainly appreciate that. Some shameless plugging before we get out of here. I do want to shout out to my buddy Vaughn at BigBZA on all socials. Definitely check him out, his TikToks and what is Big BZA thinking, and also his beats. He is definitely back on his beats. Definitely check him out, BigBZA on all socials. As for yours truly, guys, on every social I am on, BlackFox447, definitely follow me there. As I usually post everything that I watch, read, or play, and sometimes gym stuff because I do a couple push-ups just trying to get myself in a decent shape. Need to. I'm getting up there. That being said, guys, the link that you see at the bottom, let me make that just a little bit bigger for you guys to see. If you copy and paste that link into your browser, it'll take you to my link tree. That's the YouTube and Facebook groups for all of my podcasts. How the Frack got here, Get Bit, and of course, the Offense Podcast. Like, share, subscribe, let people know about it. That's all I ask. Again, guys, also for my people, we need to be better. We need to, we need to unify. We need to come together. Say hi, say hello, try to greet people, especially brothers. I get it, brothers. You always got to be wary, protective, but from brother to brother, just say hi. I'm not asking you to have full-blown conversations. I'm not asking you to check on mental health, but I'm asking you just to say hi. Let's greet each other. Let's get back to actually doing that. That's just my whole thing. Aside from that, guys, we still are in a pandemic area. So if you're going to be in an area that has a lot of foot traffic, please, oh, please wear a mask, protect yourselves. If you feel the least bit sick, stay home. You know, when you protect yourself, you protect others. That's how we're going to get through this pandemic with coronavirus and all its many variants and Decepticons, that we must protect ourselves first. Whew, that's a lot. The last thing I'll say about how the Frack got here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are simply giving you all the information and allow you to make up your own mind, but we provide a logical perspective that goes along with it. We do a lot better as society as when we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that we should have done back then. Electing our first Black woman Supreme Court, electing our first Black woman to the Federal Board of Governors, electing our first Black 4-star military general in the armed forces. All great things. When we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. That's why we keep asking ourselves, why does everything go up by our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the Frack got here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we will all get through this. Peace.